still remember the day my parents told me they were taking my sister, Emma, on a family holiday without me. "We just think it's fair," my mom had said, avoiding my eyes as she packed their suitcases. "You had your trip with your friends last summer. Emma deserves something special too." I wanted to argue, but deep down, I knew it wouldn't matter. My parents had always favored Emma, making excuses for her, defending her bad decisions, and treating her like a fragile child, even though she was 19, only a year younger than me. So, while they flew off to Greece for a 2-week luxury getaway, I stayed behind, stuck in our quiet house with nothing but resentment to keep me company. At first, I tried not to think about it. I distracted myself with movies, went out with friends, and even enjoyed the freedom of having the house to myself. But the more I saw their posts, smiling photos on sunny beaches, expensive dinners, and boat rides, the more it gnawed at me. Then, one evening, I got a call from my dad. His voice was tight, the usual calmness replaced by something I couldn't quite place. "We need to talk," he said. "Something happened with Emma." "What do you mean?" I asked, gripping my phone. There was a long pause before he answered. "The trip is not going as planned. And Emma," he exhaled, "she's in trouble." I sat up straight, my heart pounding. "What kind of trouble?" "She..." He hesitated again. "It's complicated. I don't want to worry you, but we need to figure things out. We might have to cut the trip short." "What did she do?" I demanded. "We don't know what's going on. But something's very wrong with her." I barely slept that night. My dad's words echoed in my head. Something's very wrong with her. I kept checking my phone, waiting for more updates, but nothing came. I considered calling back, demanding answers, but I knew my dad wouldn't tell me much over the phone. Whatever was happening, it was serious. By the next morning, I finally got another call, this time from my mom. "She's not acting like herself," she said, her voice trembling. "It started 2 nights ago. She woke up screaming in the hotel room, saying someone was in there with her." A cold chill ran down my spine. "What do you mean?" I asked. "She was hysterical," Mom continued. "She kept pointing at the corner of the room, insisting that a man was standing there, staring at her. But there was no one there." I swallowed hard. "Maybe she was dreaming?" "We thought so too," she said. "But then it got worse. Yesterday she wandered off. We were at a cafe, and she just stood up and walked away, completely ignoring us. We found her hours later, at some abandoned building near the beach." "What?" My voice came out sharper than I intended. "She didn't even remember how she got there," Mom whispered. "She just kept saying she felt like she had to go." I gripped my phone tighter, my mind racing. Emma wasn't the type to just wander off. She had always been self-absorbed, sure, but this was something else. "Did you take her to a doctor?" I asked. "We tried," she said, "but she refuses. She keeps saying she's fine." I hesitated. "And do you believe her?" There was silence on the other end of the line. Then, in a voice so quiet I could barely hear, my mom said, "Last night, she said something strange." "What?" "She told us we're not alone here." "What does that even mean?" I asked. "I don't know," Mom admitted, but her voice, it didn't sound like hers. "Dad wants to book an early flight home," she added. "But Emma won't leave. She says it won't let her." "What won't let her?" I finally asked. "I don't know," Mom whispered, "but I'm scared." I spent the rest of the day pacing around the house, checking my phone every few minutes. My parents had never been the superstitious type, but I could hear the fear in my mom's voice. By evening, I couldn't take it anymore. I called my dad. "Are you guys coming home or not?" I asked the second he picked up. He let out a frustrated sigh. "We're trying, but Emma refuses to leave. He hesitated. "She's not the same person, and I don't know what to do." "What does that even mean?" I snapped. "You're her parents. Drag her onto the plane if you have to." "It's not that simple," he muttered. She's different now." A lump formed in my throat. "Put her on the phone." A pause. Then some muffled sounds. She won't talk, he finally said. Clenched my jaw. Then prove it. Send me a video or something. A minute later, my phone buzzed with a message. It was a video file. I hesitated before pressing play. The shaky footage showed their hotel room. The lights were dim, and Emma was sitting on the edge of the bed, her back hunched, facing away from the camera. Her long brown hair covered her face. Emma? My dad's voice called from behind the camera. She didn't move. He stepped closer. Emma, say something. Slowly, she turned her head toward the camera. Her eyes were completely black. No whites, no pupils, just solid, endless darkness. And her mouth, it stretched into a wide, unnatural grin. Then she spoke, but it wasn't her voice. It was layered, her own mixed with something deeper, something inhuman. You shouldn't have left me behind. The screen went black. I dropped my phone, my breath coming in sharp gasps. My hands were shaking. My mind raced for an explanation, anything logical. Maybe it was a prank? Maybe bad lighting? But deep down I knew. Something was seriously wrong with my sister. I stared at my phone, my mind struggling to process what I had just seen. That wasn't Emma. It couldn't be. My heart pounded as I dialed my dad's number. He answered immediately. What the hell was that? I demanded. I don't know, he stammered. She's acting normal now. She doesn't remember saying any of that. Dad, her eyes, my voice shook. Did you see her eyes? Silence. Then, in a low voice, he said, I thought I imagined it. I swallowed hard. Get out of there. Now. We're trying, he said. But every time we bring up leaving, Emma gets aggressive. Aggressive how? Dad hesitated. She threw a lamp at your mother today. My breath caught in my throat. Emma had never been violent before. Listen, I said, gripping the phone tightly. If she won't leave willingly, you make her. This isn't normal. I know, Dad admitted. But Dad? Dad! There was a scuffle, the sound of things crashing, and then my mother's panicked voice. She's gone. She ran off again. My whole body went cold. Where did she go? I asked. She was just standing here, Mom sobbed. Then she looked at us and smiled before running out the door. Something about the way she said smiled made my skin crawl. I'm coming, I blurted out. Dad didn't argue. He just whispered, hurry. I hung up and started packing. I didn't know what I was walking into, but I knew one thing for certain. My sister wasn't my sister anymore. I barely remember booking the flight. Everything felt like a blur, throwing clothes into a bag, rushing to the airport, my hands trembling as I paid for the first ticket I could find. The flight to Greece felt agonizingly long. I couldn't stop thinking about that video. Emma's black eyes. Her unnatural grin. And those words. You shouldn't have left me behind. Was that why this was happening? Because I wasn't there? It didn't make sense. Emma and I had never been close. We tolerated each other at best. So why was I the one she addressed? By the time the plane landed, my phone had several missed calls from my dad. She's back, he said, his voice raw. I exhaled. Where did you find her? We didn't, he said. She just walked in. Like nothing happened. Something about his tone made my skin crawl. What do you mean? I asked carefully. She took a shower. Changed her clothes. Sat down for dinner. He paused. She smiled at us and said she was feeling much better. That should have been good news. But it wasn't. And you believe her? I asked. No, his voice was hollow. Because Emma doesn't eat olives. My breath hitched. What? She hates them, Dad whispered. She's hated them her whole life. But tonight she grabbed a handful and ate them like candy. When we asked, she just laughed and said, I guess I've changed. A cold shiver ran down my spine. I don't know who she is anymore, Dad admitted. But I don't think it's Emma. I swallowed hard. I'm almost at the hotel. Hurry, he said. And he hesitated. Don't let her know you're coming. I felt a chill settle in my bones. What do you mean? I asked. Just be careful, he whispered. She's been asking about you. By the time I arrived at my parents' hotel, it was almost midnight. The lobby was quiet, the warm glow of the chandeliers doing little to ease the cold dread in my chest. I texted my dad. I'm here. What room? A reply came almost instantly. For 12, come quietly. Something about that last sentence made me uneasy. I took the elevator up, my heartbeat drumming in my ears. When I reached the room, I hesitated before knocking. I wasn't sure what I expected, maybe my dad opening the door quickly, pulling me inside. Instead, the door creaked open on its own. I took a step back, my breath catching. Then my dad's hand shot out and yanked me inside. He shut the door fast, locking it. His face was pale, his eyes bloodshot. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Dad, I started, but he shook his head sharply. Keep your voice down, he whispered. He gestured toward the bedroom. She's asleep. I swallowed hard. What's going on? My mom was sitting on the couch, her hands clasped together like she was praying. She looked up at me, her face full of exhaustion and fear. Something's wrong with Emma, she said. I took a shaky breath. I know. Dad rubbed his face. We need to leave tomorrow. I don't care if we have to drag her onto the plane. We're going home. A soft click echoed through the room. We all froze. Slowly, we turned toward the bedroom door. It had just unlocked. The handle turned and the door creaked open. Emma stepped out. She was barefoot, her long hair hanging limp around her shoulders. Her nightgown was slightly damp, clinging to her body like she'd been sweating. They weren't black like in the video. They were wide, alert, almost too alert, as if she hadn't blinked in hours. And they were fixed directly on me. A slow, unnatural smile spread across her lips. You made it, she whispered. Her voice was soft, almost sweet, but something about it made my skin crawl. I forced a smile. Yeah, I wanted to make sure you're okay. She tilted her head. Then she took a step closer. My parents stiffened, but Emma ignored them. She was focused only on me. I had the strangest dream, she murmured. I was standing in the ocean, and something was whispering to me. My fingers curled into fists. What was it saying? Her smile widened. Welcome home. A shiver ran through my entire body. Emma took another step closer. I'm so glad you're here, she whispered. I was waiting for you. And for the first time in my life, I realized I was terrified of my sister. I didn't sleep that night. None of us did. After Emma's unsettling welcome, she had simply walked back into the bedroom and shut the door. No further explanation. No goodnight. Just that eerie, knowing smile before she disappeared. Dad locked the main door behind her. I could tell he wanted to barricade it, but we all knew that would only make things worse. Mom sat in the armchair, knees pulled to her chest. Dad paced. I stayed by the window, staring out at the dark city below. Every few minutes, I'd glance at the bedroom door. I half expected Emma to come back out, or for something else to walk through instead. She's not sleeping, Dad muttered after an hour. I looked at him. I put my ear to the door, he admitted. I could hear her moving around. Pacing. Whispering. I shuddered. Whispering what? His face darkened. It wasn't English. It wasn't Greek either. Mom let out a quiet sob. None of us spoke after that. Around 3 a.m. something changed. The air in the room felt heavier, like we weren't alone. Then tap. A soft sound. I turned my head, my blood running cold. Someone was knocking. Not at the door. At the window. Slowly, I looked outside. Our hotel room was on the 4th floor. There was no balcony. No ledge. Nothing for anyone to stand on. But someone was there. A figure. Standing in the darkness. A shadow against the glass. I couldn't see its face, but I could feel it watching me. The knocking came again. Soft. Patient. My breath caught in my throat. Mom whimpered. Dad grabbed my arm, yanking me away from the window. Then from the bedroom, Emma giggled. A quiet, knowing laugh. Like she was expecting it. I turned to her door, my pulse hammering. The shadow outside knocked a final time. Then slowly, the handle to Emma's room began to turn. And she whispered, it's here. The hotel room was deathly silent except for the soft creak of the bedroom door handle turning. Emma's voice, light and sing-song, sent a shiver down my spine. It's here. Dad grabbed my wrist, his grip tight. Mom was frozen, eyes wide with terror. Then the door swung open. Emma stood in the doorway, her hair hanging limp around her face, her nightgown slightly damp. But her eyes, they were different. No longer wide and alert. They were hollow, like she wasn't really in there anymore. Her lips curled into that same unnatural smile. You shouldn't have opened the window, she whispered. The window's not open, I said, my voice barely audible. Emma tilted her head. Her expression was almost amused. Are you sure? A sudden rush of wind blew through the room. Cold. Damp. Like sea air. I spun around. The window, the one 4 stories up, was wide open. Curtains billowing. But the thing that had been standing outside was gone. A sick feeling crawled up my spine. Mom let out a strangled gasp, backing against the wall. Dad grabbed the nearest chair, as if that could protect us from whatever had just entered the room. Emma let out a small sigh, like she was disappointed. Then she stepped forward. And that's when I saw it. Her shadow. It wasn't right. The dim light from the bedside lamp should have cast it toward the wall behind her. But instead, it stretched the wrong way toward us. Long twisting. Like it had a mind of its own. I took an instinctive step back. Emma smiled wider. It's okay, she murmured. We're all together now. My breath caught. And then she whispered something else, so soft I barely heard it. "It likes you best." A hand grabbed my shoulder. I spun around expecting Dad or maybe Mom, but there was no one there. Just empty space. And the sensation of fingers, cold and damp, still lingering on my skin. I couldn't breathe. The sensation of fingers on my shoulder lingered, ice cold and damp, even though no one was there. Emma's hollow eyes stayed fixed on me. Outside, the wind howled. Inside, the air felt heavy wrong. Dad's grip on the chair tightened. "Emma," he said slowly, "go back to bed." She smiled. Not like a normal person. It was slow, deliberate, like she was trying to mimic human expression but didn't quite understand how. "I'm not tired," she whispered. She took another step forward. That was enough for Dad. He lunged, grabbing her by the shoulders. "We're leaving," he snapped. "All of us. Now." For a second, she just stared at him. Then something shifted in her face. Her mouth twisted, her lips curling back. She started laughing. Not a normal laugh. It was wrong. Garbled, layered, like there was more than one voice inside her throat. Dad recoiled, letting her go. Emma's head tilted back, eyes rolling up slightly. Her chest rose and fell in sharp, unnatural jerks, as if she was struggling to control her own body. And then she whispered, "It doesn't want us to leave." Something moved. Not Emma behind her. The shadows along the walls stretched, rippling unnaturally. The air smelled like salt water. And then the lights flickered. A cold gust of wind rushed through the room, strong enough to knock over a lamp. Then, everything went silent. Emma's body swayed slightly, her hands twitching at her sides. Then, slowly, she looked at me. But it wasn't her. Something else was staring at me through her eyes. It knew me. A sharp pressure built in my ears, like I was deep underwater. My vision swam. My heartbeat pounded. Then Emma whispered in that layered, unnatural voice, "Come closer." I couldn't move. Something was inside the room with us. And it wasn't going to let us leave. I couldn't move. Emma, or whatever was inside her, stood completely still, her head tilted slightly, her gaze locked on me. "Come closer." The words echoed in my head even though she had barely spoken above a whisper. The air in the room was thick, heavy, like I was breathing through water. My ears still felt full of pressure, like I was being pulled somewhere. Then a drop of water hit my cheek. I flinched. Touched my skin. It was wet. Another drop. Then another. I looked up. The ceiling was dripping. Water pooled in the corners, running down the walls like condensation in a cold room. But it wasn't cold anymore. It was humid. The air smelled like salt and rot. A deep, creaking groan rumbled through the walls, like the entire building was sinking. And then Emma lurched forward. Dad tried to grab her again, but she moved too fast. She was inches from me in an instant, her face so close I could see the unnatural darkness in her pupils. Her mouth parted slightly. Water spilled out. A stream of thick, blackish water poured from her lips, soaking her nightgown, splashing onto the carpet. It smelled wrong, stale, like seawater trapped in a dead thing. I stumbled backward. My legs hit the bed. Behind her, the shadows on the walls moved. Shapes twisting, reaching, crawling along the wet surfaces like they were alive. Mom let out a strangled sob. Dad grabbed my arm. "We're leaving. Now." Emma's lips curled, water still dribbling down her chin. "You can't," she whispered. The moment he yanked me toward the door, the room shifted. The walls groaned again, the floor tilting just slightly, not enough to be real. I felt it then. The thing in the room. Not Emma. Something else. Something ancient. Something waiting. And then the lights went out. It was pitch black. The only sound was the faint, wet gurgling coming from Emma or whatever was in her. I couldn't even tell where she was anymore. The room had become an abyss, as if the darkness was alive, pressing in on me from every direction. I could barely hear my own breath. Dad's grip tightened on my arm, but his voice was quiet, too quiet. "We need to get out. Stay close." I nodded, though I couldn't see him. I couldn't see anything. My heart pounded against my chest. Then a low, rumbling growl came from the far corner. It wasn't Emma. The sound was otherworldly, like something that didn't belong in this place. I jerked toward the noise, but before I could react, crash. The door slammed shut. Dad cursed under his breath, pulling me back toward the window. We couldn't leave through the door now. The air was thick with something I couldn't explain, suffocating and pulling me toward the walls. My hand reached for the window, but it was locked. "Mom," I whispered. "Do you have the key?" She didn't answer. I turned. Mom was gone. I swallowed hard, fighting the panic rising in my throat. "Mom?" "Nothing." I shook Dad's arm. "Where is she?" His face went pale in the dark. "She was right behind us." The growl came again, louder this time. And closer. I felt something shift in the room, like weight pressing on my chest, dragging me toward the walls. Then, a sound that would haunt me for the rest of my life, a click. The window unlocked. I jerked it open with everything I had, the salty breeze hitting my face, the scent of the sea overpowering everything else. But before I could crawl through, a hand shot out of the darkness. It was cold. So cold it burned my skin. I screamed, yanking my arm back. But it was too late. The shadow in the room moved closer. I couldn't see its face, but I could feel its hunger. The room started to spin. Then everything went silent again. For a moment, I thought it was over. That maybe I had just imagined it all. And then, a voice. It wasn't Emma. It wasn't anyone I knew. But it was clear. You shouldn't have left her behind. And then I felt the floor drop beneath me. I fell. It seemed like an eternity as I fell through the darkness, my body weightless and spinning, the sound of my heartbeat deafening in my ears. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I felt the air rushing around me, saturated with the smell of salt and rot. There was no floor. The walls, the room, my parents, everything was gone. And then I suddenly woke up after I realized that it was just a nightmare. I exhaled, but after that nightmare I didn't want to sleep again that day.